At this point in time, I'll turn it over to Coach. Coach?
Yeah, good day today. We got it all. We started off, it was hot, humid, and we got rain throughout practice. So it was good to be able to have those conditions and work through them. And then at the end of practice, we got lightning, so we had to move inside. So we had a full day of just dealing with all the different situations that come up weather-wise. And so all the elements, I thought the guys handled it well when the rain came, continued to execute, and we were able to just work through some of that as players, as staff, equipment, all those things. So overall, good day. It was good to have Demetrius Robertson out there today with us at practice, and I thought the guys in pads with the tempo and the workload that we had for them, they handled it well. So overall, positive from practice. We'll continue on today with workouts, meetings, and finish out the day just making sure that we correct what we did today, take what we learned, and be ready to go again tomorrow. And then throughout the week, we're getting ourselves prepared for Saturday when we go scrimmage. And we'll talk about that. I'm sure you have questions on that. But that's the goal, getting prepared for Saturday. We'll be in the stadium, be there right at that 6:05 time so we can get some good work in, get some good on good, and then evaluate that on Sunday, correct, and move on to the next week, which school starts for these guys is coming up. And they're thinking about that. They'll be preparing for when we get into that schedule, which will be a little bit different for some of us because the school starts so early here. And so we got to make some adjustments because we're still in camp, and then we're still working through some of the situations that we want to finish up in a normal camp, while we're in school and dealing with that 20-hour rule. But other than that, day by day, and these guys, I thought so far this morning, they handled themselves well. We learned a lot from the things that happened to us at practice, and the goal is that continues throughout the day. So with that, open up for questions.
First question, Coach, from Mark Murphy.
Yeah, could you talk about what you like to get done in a full day in addition to practice while you're in the camp portion of practice?
Yeah, well, we want to work out. We want to get our lifting in and our conditioning in. So more lifting than conditioning. A lot of our conditioning is in practice. There's still some components of that we do. And a lot of it's, around recovery. So if it might be conditioning as far as like striders to get some of the soreness out, that type of thing, more than just actual conditioning physically. And then the recovery piece. This time of year, this is where your trainers work really, really hard every day. But time of year, they're working extremely hard because now it's all about recovery after practice. They're getting them ready for practice in the mornings, and they're practicing, and then they're recovering the whole entire rest of the day when practice is over. You got to lift, maybe some recovery as far as running and conditioning goes, but other than that, it's all recovery. It's hydration, especially here with the heat and humidity. You've got to hydrate. You've got to take care of your body. And then you're getting time for meetings. When you don't have, those hour restrictions, you try to get as much meeting time in as you can. You try to get as much time maximizing the walkthrough opportunities that you have. You got an hour to do that. So it's really, when you get into camp, all those factors, but you take care of yourself by the recovery piece, and then talking football and walking through it and correcting and teaching are really the key components of camp. Because once you get into school, you have that element that the players have in the mornings or the evenings, whatever their class schedule is. You have football, you have meetings, and so you're only getting 4 hours of that at a time. And so you got to maximize that. And you got 20 hours a week to do it, and hopefully what they're learning now, they're going to be able to take that when they're going to have to do work on their own as far as football goes, and they can spend the time knowing how to prepare themselves properly so that the time we're not with them, they still show up ready, they still show up prepared to go out there and have a really good practice on a Wednesday or a Thursday of a game week because they're doing the work now that they've learned in camp properly, so that they're ready to go each and every day. So that's what fall camp is really about, is going through a lot of just how to take care of yourself, how to recover, how to prepare yourself properly, because you're going to have to do these things on your own because we don't have the time allowed like we do during camp to be able to do that during the season.
Next, Justin Hokanson.
Hey, Bryan. Question about the offensive line. You've talked about shuffling those guys and cross training and building depth that way. Obviously, we're just 4 days in, but how do you balance shuffling them and cross training, and then also getting to the point where you can have your first team unit just going together or second team unit going together over and over and over again? Like, what's kind of the balance on that?
Yeah, so we're not shuffling every single play. They're going to be in racks of 4, 6, whatever the rep count is. And so for that period, they're going to be in that group. And then maybe the next period, so we might have a team period, say period 10 of practice, and you have a team period for a couple periods, you do something else in between, some special teams, you come back. Then there might be some shuffling. There might be a guy that was with the second group now working with the first group. And so it's little tweaks. It's not major. It's an insert a guy here and there, especially as you compete. And I think Coach Friend's done a good job of that. We've moved. Council has played a little tackle. He's played some guard. So he's moved around a little bit. But I do think right now, especially early, you're working a lot. We do a lot of just fundamental work. We do a lot of things with our techniques that we're working on, with every single unit. And then you get into your team portion of it. You're learning the offense right now, and so you're able to move them around and get them some different looks, because you're getting a lot of reps of the same play throughout practice. So it might be a team run period, it might be a team period, it might be O-line versus D-line, but you're repping the same play. And so this guy got 3 reps on it at guard. Now he's going to get 3 reps on it at tackle. I think it helps them get a better understanding of the communication, the work that those two have to do together. And then also for us as well, it allows us a little bit of freedom to be able to move guys around and say, all right, here's the best 5. And they understand it. And one of the reasons why, when I was at Boise, and I want to say it was the 2008 or 9 season, it was one of those years. Out of the 12 games that we played, we had 11 different O-line combinations. And that hit me, and I remember, and I didn't really think about it. I remember somebody actually brought it up. It was a reporter that brought it up and had talked about it. And, we're going, and you don't really think about it because that's how you operate. And they had brought it up that we had 11 different, during that season, O-line combinations. And so that's something that's always stuck with me, that you've got to be prepared for that. It's not ideal. You'd love to have the same 5 every game. But, those guys do need to be ready. We are still working through who the best 5 are. And at this point for the O-line and D-line, who are the best guys? Who are the toughest guys? Who are the guys that can go out there and be the most consistent up front? And some days, that's one of the things right now as we're trying to figure it out. If you want to play on this team, be consistent. Go out there, play good football every single day. Be consistent. Be a guy that we can count on, we can rely on. Be a guy that, as things get more challenging throughout practice, you show some toughness. Obviously as we get pads on, you show some physicality on the O-line and D-line. Those are big parts of it. And that's what we're working through right now. It's an evaluation from hitting the sleds to hitting somebody else to getting to a team period, and who's going to do that up front, O-line and D-line wise. Who's going to go out there and be a physical player that we know can get into a game and actually cause some damage, can do some things from that standpoint, just physically. And right now we're not there. Right now we're working through that. That has to show up more in those 2 areas throughout this week, and as we get into the next week and get closer to playing in that first game, that's where we have to improve ourselves. Are going to be in those 2 areas right there.
Next, Jordan Hill.
Bryan, we haven't seen Tyron Truesdale the last few practices. Do you just have any updates on his status?
Yeah, as of right now, he is not a part of this football team. That's where we stand at this point. And, the guys that are in camp, Obviously since we've been here over the last 8 months, there's been guys that were here and there's guys that aren't for various reasons. And, that's part of, being on a team. There's more things, and not so much in his case, but just overall in general. I mean, being a part of a team, there's a lot of little things that we all have to do each and every day. And the guys that are in camp right now, they've worked really hard to be there, and hopefully that continues, and we keep focused on the things that we need to do, not just on the field, but overall in this program. And that continues to be part of our culture and the environment that we have each and every day.
Next, Brian Stoltz.
Thanks, Kirk. Coach, I know it's early on, but what have you seen out of TJ Finley and the chemistry between him and Bo Nix at the quarterback position?
Well, yeah, those guys get along. There's really not chemistry between quarterbacks, that you need to have that because they're not out there playing with each other. They get along, they support each other. That's really at that position what's most important. They get in the room, they prepare, they push each other. They're both competitive, and that's something that we've been able to see. I think TJ is, from the summertime since he's been here, has picked up quite a bit. He's learning the details of the position, and both guys are doing a good job. There's a high standard for that position daily. It's not just in the game. As a quarterback, you don't have a lot of opportunities to have bad moments, let alone bad days at practice. And from when you start handing the ball off in the beginning of practice, when you're doing some of your walkthrough work, and you hand the ball off, you can't have the ball land on the ground. When you play action, even though you're walking through, I mean, you're like Peyton Manning. You're sticking the ball out, and you're very deliberate about what you do. And so, that's the biggest thing that I hope these guys are getting through, or these guys are understanding, and we're getting through to them is just how important every single thing we do at that position is. I always believe at the quarterback position, like every rep you take, it's like a game rep. You got to treat it like that because there's so many different things that happen throughout practice in a game that there's no way as a coach you could ever, even come up with all the situations that might actually happen to a quarterback. And so every rep you get, you got to be in that game mode. You got to be focused. That includes walkthroughs. There's no days off at that position. And that's where I think these quarterbacks are learning that right now is just it's got to be from when, you get up in the morning and you show up to practice and the first throw you take or the handoff or the cadence. You can't just show up out there and then use the wrong cadence, in the old my bad. Like that's not what we want, and that's not what's going to help the other 10 guys on the field at that position. Like you got to be right, and you got to get the guys lined up properly. You got to be able to handle all the different things that we're doing on that side of the ball with the cadence and checks and different looks that we get. So Bo's doing a better job of that. I think Finley is really getting to understand the details as well. Demetrius Davis, I really like where he's at. I think he's come a long way for a young player and being in a new system that he had never really played in. That's the other thing too is, in a pro-style offense, you're learning. That's why as you watch professional quarterbacks, they're able to get up there and make a lot of adjustments. They're able to use cadence. They're able to do a lot of different things. And, not every player that comes out of high school has done that. And I think that's one of the advantages that we have with our quarterbacks is they learn how to play the position at the highest level, as far as, what it takes to run a system and what it takes to be able to go out there and prepare properly to do all that. So those guys are learning. They're learning what it takes, and we still have a ways to go from that standpoint. But both guys are – what I like about them is they're a lot more positive out there on the field in a good way. Just, hey, we make a mistake, correct it, and let's not make it twice. And that's really what it is. And I like that about that group of quarterbacks. They come back and they'll make a play the next time. And very rarely have I seen so far that we've just had back-to-back negative plays, and that's a key component to that group, those players in particular, and how we're developing those guys.
All right, we got time for a few more. First, Bennett Durando.
Hey, Bryan, wanted to ask about sort of your being so hands-on with a variety of position groups at practice. What do you hope to gain from that, and what do you hope your players gain from it?
Hey, man, I love football. And I learn every day. When I'm on the defensive side, I'm all about tackling. I know the schemes, and I see it from a different perspective on the offensive side. So if I can help and provide, just maybe what the offensive side might be thinking about that particular coverage or technique, or how much of a problem that can be, I'll provide information when needed, but I love to just listen to coaches coach. I love to hear the players communicate out there, see the techniques, watch Coach Etheridge talk about press coverage. I've been around other coaches that coach the corners, and everybody's got a little different verbiage, a little different buzzword that I'm able to pick up, and so I try to learn that from the coaches and maybe be able to use it at some point and try to emphasize what their coaching points are. But I want to be around. I mean, that's our team. And that's the one thing about being a head coach is you get to go out there and kind of be on every side with every group, and then you get to pick the winners, right? If the defense is winning, I'm going to go hang out with them. If the offense is winning, I'm going to go hang out with them. If it's special teams that day, then I'm going to be with those guys. So that's the fun part about being the head coach is you get to really just cheer for each side. And I used to, other coaches would tell me, like, some days you don't really have a great day because somebody's losing, somebody's winning, and all that. Well, I just chose I'm going to go pick the winners. I'm going to go hang out with them. So I'm going to enjoy if the defense wins, go celebrate with them. Offense, they got to figure it out. But I enjoy seeing those guys work. I enjoy being there and just trying to pick them up, help them out, encourage them, reemphasize whatever the coach is saying, and at the same time too, if it's not going well, then let them know. Like we got to fix this. And one thing that we're learning right now is we know there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be a lot of things that we have to correct. And what I hope these guys understand is, once they recognize whatever it is that they need to do better, that they're able to just move towards improving and making that decision to, intentionally get better at whatever it is that they need to improve on. So that's why I bounce around, and I enjoy that. And I practice too. We try to hustle and have a sense of urgency, and that's important. I think the way we practice right now is what we really have to continue to keep emphasizing, and that's part of it.
Tom Green.
Yeah, Bryan, with Tyron, you said as of right now, he's not part of the team. Is there a chance that he could rejoin the team at a later date, or is that out of the question right now?
Yeah. He's not on our team.
All right, last one today is from Jason Caldwell.
Well, you talked about quarterbacks and kind of the pro style system and the differences for them. People probably don't realize maybe the wide receiver, how much different it is for them. How much are you more you ask of those guys at wide receiver, and how have they progressed since the spring?
Yeah, well, every guy on the offensive side, you're asking to think. I mean, you really got to go out there and understand what coverages are, what techniques the DBs are playing against you, and why. And tight ends, what are they doing? Look at the front. Look at the coverage. Look at the safeties. I mean, it's right now. I mean, we're just in football 101. It feels like. And so really understanding that, why does the defense do what they do? What are the advantages that the defense has when they're in this look? How do we take advantage of the defense when they're in another look? And so, we're teaching guys that right now. I mean, part of that is just if you listen to players that are really good consistently and understand how to prepare, I mean, they talk about these things. It's not it's not always the physical component of it, right? That's part of what you prepare for every day. You're doing the footwork, you're striking sleds, you're working on those fundamentals and techniques. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're never going to be out there. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter, how strong you are and all those. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to respond to the look that you're getting and make the right decision or make the right call or put yourself in the right position, you're never going to be out there on the field, all right? Or very often as much as you'd like to be, and as much as people would like you to be too. That's the frustrating thing. You see talented players, and a lot of times it's like, why isn't this guy playing? Well, he doesn't know what he's doing. And that's really what it comes down to. No one wants to keep a highly, really good player off the field, but you better know where you're going and what you're doing. And so, what's important too, it's one of those things that as a player, when you start to understand the why and what teams are trying to do and the different ways to go out there and win in those situations, I think it gives you a lot more confidence and enjoyment in the game. And so we're teaching that right now, and that's part of just these guys in these installs and everything that we're doing is kind of football 101 with, all right, here's the looks, here's how, we're going to go out there and execute this play against it. If they do this, we do that, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, you're hoping that you get some type of advantage from that with your players being really, really smart guys. And then when you can do that, man, you can play fast, you can play physical, you can go out there and you say, you kind of talk about that zone, but I mean, that's really what you want to play in. Like, all these other things, you worked on it, and now you can just go cut it loose. Now you can go out there and that talent and that hard work and that technique and all those things you've been working on, they really shine because you're going to be in the right spot, you're going to do the right thing, and you're going to have tremendous trust from the players around you that that's all going to happen. And so, usually when those things are all combined, good things happen.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.